Pixar has made over $17 billion at the box office. And almost every single one of their films, from Toy Story to Finding Nemo, follows the same 6-part story structure. And in today's video, I want to tell you how to use that story structure to actually write your own about page for your website. So most about pages end up reading like a resume or a list of credentials, and all you end up doing in that page is telling your audience about you, when really your about page needs to be about them, which feels a little bit counterintuitive to talk about your audience on your about page, but it actually is the difference between an about page that works and one that doesn't. So what I'm gonna do in this video is walk through each beat of the Pixar story structure, and then I'm gonna give you an example with my own story so you can see it applied, and then I'll also show you a prompt for how you can apply it to your story if you want to write your about page with me throughout this video. I'm Cheyenne, and if you're new here, which this is one of my first few videos, so everybody's new here, I'm the person that works with your favorite 6- and 7-figure creators on their copywriting and their marketing funnel strategy. And so when I'm working with creators on writing their about page, this is actually the structure that I've started to use because something about it just kind of like clicks in people's head. You have seen enough Pixar movies to know this structure, even if you can't necessarily name it. And so I think it's gonna be really helpful for you to use this for your about page as you are writing your copy. And it's literally the exact same thing that I would tell you if you were one of my clients when we were working on your about page together. So the way the Pixar story structure works is it says, once upon a time, every day, until one day, because of that, until finally. And those because of that's in the middle, you can actually repeat as many times as you need to. The difference between the Pixar story structure and how other storytelling frameworks work is that Pixar has this specific because of that framework, whereas a lot of other stories are just gonna say, and then this happened, and then that happened. And so it feels like a list, whereas the Pixar structure is actually taking you on this journey and connecting each of the dots to each other. So you can think about this if you think about one of your favorite Pixar films, it follows that structure. Okay, so if we want to use Finding Nemo as an example, we can say, once upon a time, there was a clownfish named Merlin. Every day, he was afraid that he would lose his son Nemo in the ocean. Until one day, Nemo actually swam out to sea, he touched the boat, and he got lost at sea. So because of that, Merlin went on this adventure to find his son. And because of that, he met Dory, and they had all of these crazy adventures like fighting sharks, meeting a seagull, all of these different things happened until finally he found Nemo and they lived happily ever after. So that's the story structure that works for Pixar, and it will also work for you writing your about page. What's really interesting is that you can somehow see yourself in that story. You are not a clownfish, you're not in the ocean, but there's something about that story that's going to resonate with you, even though it's about these clownfish. And we want to create that same feeling on your about page, that when your audience is reading your story, they actually see themselves in it and they're able to really empathize with you, know that you understand them, and see bits of themselves in the story that you're telling about yourself. So let's break it down, and we're going to start with once upon a time. Once upon a time is the first opening beat of your story, and it's going to be your origin. So what you're going to do in this section is say, where were you? What was going on in your life? What was happening at the time? And you're gonna set up some sort of problem, situation, or obstacle that you were up against that's going to tell the rest of the story. This is likely the part of your story that your reader is most going to see themselves in, because chances are you are looking at them and saying, hey, I used to be where you were. All of these things happened that have the because of that framework. And because of all those things, finally, I am where I am today, and I can help you, if you're all the way back at my origin story, to move forward and overcome your problems. So this is really important to get right, because you want to say things in such a way that your reader is like, oh my gosh, you get me, I was exactly there, you're in the position, you were in that position years ago that I am in today. You want to be able to say that to your reader in this origin story section. Something you can do at this part of your story is set the stage and then say, but this thing was happening that sets up the tension or the central conflict of the rest of your about story. So if I was gonna say it for myself, I might say, once upon a time, there was an English writing major from a small liberal arts college in Nashville who somehow landed the job as the executive assistant to the COO at Donald Miller's company, StoryBrand. But That executive assistant saw all of the salaries at the company and realized that she was making about $9K less than anybody else. And something about knowing that she was paid less than the other employees really stuck with her and made her want to make a change. So that's kind of my origin story. That small detail of, okay, I had landed this dream job, I had the skills, but I wasn't making as much money as I wanted to, is actually a central tension that sets me up for the rest of what came after that. And your audience is going to want to hear that detail about you. What is that small thing that was kind of the problem, the chip on your shoulder, the odds that you were up against in your origin story that set you up to take action and do all these other things after that? So from there, what we want to do is start to set up the everyday segment of this story. And every day is what were the things that you were going through day in and day out, the monotony of your life that kind of set up the central tension that you realized you had to make a change based on whatever that problem was in the origin story. So we've got your origin story, where you were, we've got whatever central problem is happening, and then what was happening every day in your life that told you, I actually do have to change this problem. It might be the things that you tried that didn't work. It might be just the things that kind of sucked in your everyday. We want to figure out what that everyday part of your story is and talk about that in this next section. So for me, at that point, my everyday was, I'm in this job as an assistant. I'm doing everything that I can to get noticed, right? I'm working really hard. I'm making sure that my boss is happy. I'm making sure that I'm doing the very best I can in my role. And for a period of time, it actually worked. I was getting the promotions. I ended up joining a new company in an even better role. And so this everyday tension is building where, okay, by anybody's standards, I'm actually taking the situation I was in of, I'm in this job, I want to make more money, I want to be able to grow my career. And I kind of played the playbook that you're supposed to play and did all of those things. And to some extent, it was working. So that's my everyday. That's what was happening in the day in and day out. At this point, the person reading your about page is thinking probably one of two things, right? They're either saying, oh my gosh, how could you have possibly put up with that? That sounds so hard. You had to get out, something had to change. So the tension is really building. Or it feels a little bit counterintuitive. In my story, you might be saying, yeah, by all accounts, you were doing really well. Why would you make a change? What could possibly happen that would disrupt this status quo? So you're trying to evoke that emotion in the person reading your about page that either, hey, things sound way worse and you have to get out of it and there is some sort of tension building that you have to make a change, or they kind of think things seem fine. And so they're going to be surprised that something changed in your story. At this point in the story, they're kind of living their everyday life. They're swimming around the ocean, they're staying in their little community and their little corner of the deep blue sea. And something is about to happen that's going to change everything. And so we're setting you up for that in your story. So at this point, beat 3 is that until one day. This is the moment that everything changed in your story. No matter what in your story, you are writing to empathize with your audience. And so what they're looking for at this point is something that signals to them, oh my gosh, you got out of the situation that I am stuck in. Something happened that dramatically changed things for you. And so you're really trying to communicate that at this point, which is the until one day. What was the moment that you had had enough, that things changed, that your circumstances changed and you were forced to change? It's that inciting incident in literature is what this is called. And so we're looking for that inciting incident in your own life. So for me, at this point in the story, I had been kind of climbing the marketing ladder. I had jumped to a new company. I'm the head of content and marketing at Boss Babe. By all accounts, I am doing the thing and really growing in my marketing career. Until one day, the founders of Boss Babe, which was this company I had poured 3 years into, split up. And so I found myself in the middle of a situation that felt really confusing. I could see both founders' perspectives, and I didn't know where that left me in my career as a marketer. What's hard is that the until one day might feel like a bit of a vulnerable, confusing part of your story. It might feel a little bit painful to tell, but because your audience is going to see that you went through this hard thing and then you were ultimately able to overcome it, we're not done with the story yet, that's going to really build the trust with you that you're not just someone who's sitting on a pedestal and has never been through a tough thing. You get it, you've been there, and you were able to make a change. And so we want to be able to communicate that to your audience at this point in the story. So I encourage you, if you're writing along with me, if this is a part of your story that feels scary or vulnerable or uncomfortable to share with your audience, push through, share it with them. You're going to be actually really surprised at how many people go, oh my gosh, I get that. I've felt something like that before. And it's really gonna resonate with them. So stick with it, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable. So now we're getting into a really fun part of the structure, which is because of that, because of that. I'm gonna walk through 2 because of that statements. You can add these as much as you want. If there are more parts of your story and more twists and turns, you might repeat this because of that, because of that, because of that format multiple times. That's okay, as long as the story is building upon itself and you're not just rambling on in a story and saying like, and then that happened, and then that happened. There's a really big difference between because of that and then that happened, which sounds really small, but there's actually a unique way to go about both of those statements. And we just wanna make sure that you're using the because of that format that builds tension, builds the story, not the and then that happened, which is a bit rambly and kind of like monotonous. So for me, my because of that moments were, okay, I'm at this company, I've grown my career, the founders split up. So because of that, I spent 6 months at Boss Babe, continuing in my role, but my role had changed a lot. A lot of my friends had ended up leaving the company at that point, and I ended up feeling pretty alone. And so because of that, I left. I spent 6 months helping one of the founders launch her mastermind and her newsletter completely from scratch. We grew her email list to 5,000 subscribers and generated over 1.2 million in revenue in the first 6 months alone. And it was my first time at that point in my career growing something truly from zero. So because of that, I realized, okay, I don't have to come into a company that already exists to make a marketing difference. I'm really good at this on my own. And because of that, I was ultimately able to leave and make the decision to start my own business and work with a lot more creators. So do you see how as I'm telling that story, I'm kind of building upon it? There's these twists and these turns, and each little moment kind of builds upon the next. It's like you're watching the light bulbs go off in my head in real time, and we're trying to create that for your audience too. So what you might want to do at this point is actually bullet list out what are the different kind of things that happened to get you to where you are today. You might go a little bit more granular here of after you realized you had to make a change from your original state, what were those steps that you took in the in-between to get to where you are today? And then you can figure out what the twists and turns are and the because of that statements that connect each of those dots to each other. So the final beat that we've been building all the way to this whole time is until finally. Until finally is where you're kind of tying things up into a nice bow. Obviously, your story's not over. You're going to continue building upon this story over time. But what's really special about this until finally moment is you're finally meeting your audience at where you are today, and they're looking back and seeing, wow, there is such a huge difference between where this person I'm reading about is at today and where they started. So the trust is continuing to build with you over time because they've watched the journey you're on. They see themselves in that, and they've seen that you have overcome a really hard thing through all of the twists and turns that you just got done outlining. So at this point, you're sharing with them the until finally moment. Where are you at today? What does your life look like now? And how are you actually able to help them? So for me, my until finally statement is at this point when you're watching this, until finally I've been able to grow my business to help 6- and 7-figure creators who have a large audience but struggle to figure out how to sell. That was exactly the situation that I ended up in after Boss Babe, was working with a creator who had the audience, who had the impact and had a really great offer, and figuring out, okay, how can we sell this thing that's really great with this audience that's really leaned in without feeling like we were selling all the time and making it feel super scammy and overly salesy. So my question for you is, what is your until finally statement? What is the thing that you have arrived at today where you can look back with empathy and say, hey, I really understand where you are. I've been there, I've walked through it. This is how I was able to make a change in my own life, and this is how I can help you too. So if you've stuck with me this whole video, your assignment here is to go and write your about page. Write down those 6 statements. Once upon a time, every day, until one day, because of that, because of that, because of that, because of that, until finally. Go ahead and put that on your about page. I really love if you pair this with beautiful visuals on your about page that show clips and photos from that story. It really makes it very visual and helps people understand how long you have been working at this thing. And I'm sure that if somebody reads that story and can see themselves in it, they're going to be way more likely to work with you than if you just listed off all your credentials and college degrees. People buy from people, and they buy from people with really compelling stories. And now we have just gotten to tell yours. My name is Cheyenne. Again, I'm the person that works with your favorite creators on their copywriting and marketing funnels. If you found this video helpful, I am really excited about YouTube this year, and I'm going to have a lot more where this came from. So like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.